There have been lots of incredible things lost underwater. Some were lost through chance, while some were lost due to a disaster or a catastrophe. Some of these lost objects have been found by chance recently. Below are some unbelievable things lost underwater but have finally been found. The HMS Cerebrus. This is the only intact colonial warship in Australia. This strange, rotten vessel may have never seen any real legit action, but it has been part of Australia since before it was even a country. The ship was named Cerebrus after the vicious three-headed dog that guards the entrance to Hades' domain, aka Hell. The 225-foot-long warship was built in 1870 for the colony of Victoria. It had the first breastwork monitor, an innovation of the designer Edward James Reed. The ship included a central armored structure containing rotational gun turrets, funnels, the bridge, and other necessary operational pieces. This both lessened the chance that the ship would be sunk by large breaking waves, and he also placed weapons at a strategically elevated height. But those weapons were never actually tested. The Cerebrus once served in the Victorian Naval Forces when Australia was still a British colony, almost a century ago, in 1924. There was no more use for the ancient vessel, and it was just left off the coast of Blackrock. The ship was sold for a measly price of $400, but the person who paid for the ship simply stripped all the valuable metal and then sold the hull for $150. The ship was then scuttled in Half Moon Bay in 1926 to be used as a breakwater. There was some talk about removing the ship from in front of what now stands as the Black Rod Yacht Club, but that is never going to happen. The HMS Cerebrus has been deemed too much of a historical attraction, even if it slowly turns into ugly trash. Shipwreck at the bottom of the lake. Scuba diver Scott Hill is a retired captain for the Rochester City Police Department. In 2014, he went diving at Canandaigua Lake, New York, never expecting to solve a mystery. But as he was exploring the underwater world of the lake, he came across something that had been lost for over a century. According to Scott himself, the visibility in the lake that day was incredible, with the water looking just like glass. When he reached the lake's northern end, he could see pretty much to the bottom in perfect clarity. Thanks to such excellent visibility, he spotted a shipwreck. Scott did not know what shipwreck he had found at first. He had to go back home and do some pretty serious research and a few more dives to make sure he was actually correct. As it turned out, he had discovered the Seneca Chief, a steel yacht that arrived at the lake in 1887, but the yacht only lasted shy of 2 decades. It was towed deep into the water and sunk on purpose for outliving its usefulness in 1896. It has sat at the bottom of the lake ever since, with nobody even knowing it was there. The lost village of Gronn. The underwater village of Gronn has been lost for 7 long decades, but after 70 years submerged, it reappeared briefly in 2021. Locals were quite shocked to see the ruins of this mysterious town for the first time since it was submerged in 1950. All that time underwater has so much damage that the ruins look far older than they really are. For the brief time the village was visible, it looked like a soggy medieval town that had been abandoned 5 centuries ago. The village of Gronn is located in Italy. It was submerged on purpose to create an artificial lake. The locals obviously were not too happy about it, but the project moved forward anyway. 150 families, equaling about 1,000 people, were immediately displaced by the flood. It became exposed because construction crews had to drain the lake to perform maintenance. After fixing whatever the issue was, the lake was flooded and the village submerged again. Lost wedding band. Teenager Georgia Morris was snorkeling at Red Gate Beach in Western Australia during a terrible heat wave. There were plenty of other people swimming in the water too. It was a hectic day and everyone was just trying to beat the heat. As Georgia was making her way out of the water after a good swim, a glint of something caught her eye. Like Smeagol from Lord of the Rings finding the ring, she dove to the bottom of the surf and pulled a glittering ring out of the sand. She showed it to her mom, who told her it was probably someone's wedding ring. So Georgia took the inscription on the ring and posted it on their local community Facebook group. It didn't take so long for someone to reach out. A couple messaged Georgia and said they had lost that very ring 18 years before. Mark Didmar had lost his wedding band back when his wife was still pregnant with their son, who is now 19 years old. It was shocking for them to be reunited with the lost wedding band after almost 2 decades. They had never thought they would see it again. Sunken whiskey. An underwater treasure hunt ended in the discovery of some very old whiskey at the bottom of the lake. Dave Davidson, Dieter Mueller, and Adam Bloxel went diving in Otter Lake to find a lost stash of whiskey that went missing in 1964. According to Dieter, the whiskey was lost when his neighbor crashed the boat into a dock late in the middle of the night. Dieter tried to locate the bottles when he was a teenager, but never managed to find them. Now, as an old man, he decided to take one last stab at finding the whiskey, and brought a few friends along for the trip. A total of 3 whiskey bottles were brought up from the bottom of the lake. The labels had disintegrated, but it was still good stuff because the whiskey was lost in 1964. Most likely aged 12 years at the time, it would now be 70 years old. Belle Island Mine. The Belle Island Mine is one of the unorthodox places a person can go diving. It was just recently that a local diving adventure company called Ocean Quest took an interest in the mine. The company based in Newfoundland will now start taking their customers on epic journeys through the flooded mine in the middle of Conception Bay. It is epic, creepy, and not for those who are easily spooked. The mine itself is freaky enough without having to strap a mask onto your face. It was initially closed in the 1960s, but the section opened for exploration was initially closed in 1949. Scotland's Atlantis. Underwater archaeologists have found over 200 mysterious objects in the North Sea. Off the coast of Scotland, those objects are part of Scotland's own Atlantis, an underwater world named Doggerland. This mysterious land was once above water, a bridge connecting the United Kingdom to Europe. It was home to tens of thousands of people before sea levels rose, and it was lost forever, turning the United Kingdom into an island and separating it from Europe. Researchers believe that it was an enormous tsunami that drowned the whole area 8,200 years ago. Artifacts from the Song Dynasty. During the Song Dynasty of China, between 960 and 1279, a cargo ship was lost in the depths of the South China Sea. It sank to around 70 feet below sea level, where it remained unseen by human eyes until it was discovered in 2007 by archaeologists. Ever since, divers have been recovering pieces of its cargo. It has ended up being one of the most impressive ancient vessels ever explored. The Yankees Minor League Stadium. In 2021, the Yankees Minor League Stadium was lost entirely underwater. It happened overnight during a sudden storm. It was the aftermath of Tropical Storm Ida, and it completely submerged the TD Bank Ballpark in Bridgewater Township. The playing field, the spectator stands, and even the parking lot. The water receded after the storm, but the stadium sustained major damage. Those living in the area never imagined they would see the day where an entire stadium ended up underwater, like in some post-apocalyptic movie. Captain Cook's. Just off the coast of Rhode Island in the United States, the Australian Maritime Museum claims to have found the lost ship of the famous Captain Cook. We're talking about HMS Endeavour. That was the vessel that explorer Captain James Cook used to reach Australia and New Zealand from 1768 to 1771. According to the museum director, Kevin Sumption, he and his team have been looking at the all 18th century shipwrecks near Rhode Island, where they believe the Endeavour sank. They have been investigating the area since 1999.